Howdy, gang. First off, some of you may have noticed that it, there's a little bit of different music to my intro for the watch-alongs. I was using. Some of you may not be interested in this. Some of you may be, especially those of you that are thinking about starting your own channel on YouTube. But um, I was using music from a copyright free site, and I'd been using it for a long time, and all of a sudden I've started getting notifications on my watch alongs that my videos can't be monetized because they have this particular piece of music on there. So the only thing I can assume is that the person or persons that created that music have decided they no longer want to offer it for free, or they're getting money some other way for it. So I had to, hey, Phil, I had to scramble a little bit and get a different piece of music to use, because that's the last thing I want. If I start getting, some ad revenue, I can't monetize videos that it was not a copyright strike, but it was what's called a copyright claim. And there are two different things. And with a copyright claim, a person or persons is saying, hey, I own that music. I'm using it elsewhere and getting money for it. You can use it on YouTube, but you cannot monetize a video where you're using it. So it's just a thing that happens from time to time. And some of you that are thinking about starting your own channel, or you already have a channel and you're starting to add more content to it, that's something that you may want to keep in mind that may pop up from time to time. So for those of you that noticed I've got a little bit of different music on there, that is why. Also, you may be able to hear it rumbling thunder. It did not start this until late. Hopefully it will not interfere with the watch along for Tenebrae, because I've had to reschedule it already, and I didn't really want to reschedule it again. So hopefully won't have any power outages. I won't get struck by lightning and start jittering all over the place. I know it sounds like I'm making light of it, but I really don't want to get struck by lightning. So hopefully none of those things will happen tonight while I'm doing this watch along. I'm hoping we get a little rain. I'm actually hoping we get a little bit of rain, but who knows if we will. There's been a little bit of wind, thunder, lightning, stuff like that. But it's really dry and we need some rain, as I'm sure a lot of places right now need some rain. How's the weather where you are, Phil? You said y'all had storms last night. Phil, you're in Kokomo, right? Up in Indiana. So, anyway, also, I wanted to show you guys and gals, I've been trying to do, or been wanting to do a new candle scent for a while, and a eucalyptus scented candle. And I had an idea for it called Cannibal Jungle, and to go along with my horror theme. And also, there's a secondary positive to this. I'm not a fan of spiders. Anybody that's been on here watching me and a spider runs across my desk, I will go flying backwards. I'm not scared of snakes or rats or anything like that, but spiders, I don't like. They can be this small or smaller, and they're too big for me. So, eucalyptus scent is supposed to keep spiders away. So, I've started to see later on this summer, I've started to see spiders in the house again. I'm like, dudes, you stay outside, it's fine. You come in my house, that's where we got a problem. So, these candles will soon be making their appearance on the Deadites on Deck shop. This is the artwork on the top. I hope y'all can see that, for Cannibal Jungle. And it is green, although when I start making them for people, I'm going to have to add some more green color to them because it wasn't quite green enough for me. Or I'm going to have to use a darker green. But it will be green wax and it will be scented eucalyptus. And it's going to be called, of course, Cannibal Jungle. Hello, Tom. Um, but again, you should be able to pick those up soon from the Deadites on Deck shop at deaditesondeck.com. I don't know that I'm going to have anybody on here with me for the watch along. Phil, if you're interested in coming on, or anybody else that's interested in coming on tonight to help me with this watch along, you don't have to necessarily be on camera. Just let me know and I'll put the link in the chat for you. But I sent a link to Candace and Chris, but they may be away from home. Or they could be experiencing storms, any number of things, because I have not heard from them. So, and it looks like Candace wasn't active. She hasn't been active for an hour. Chris hadn't been active for about 20 or so minutes. Oh, Phil. Now, I've watched Kingdom of the Spiders. I will watch the spider movies, but they do give me the creeps. You said we have so many spider webs outside. It looks like Kingdom of the Spiders. Ew. You know, Kingdom of the Spiders. I might do a watch along for Kingdom of the Spiders at some point. Oh, Svengoolie. Sorry, Phil. Forgot. But I do thank you for popping in here before Svengoolie. Speaking of horror hosts, though, I survived the Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In Night Marathon on Shudder. I did not make it all the way through, though, sadly. Boo on me. I did make it until 3:30. I was in the middle of Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell, which is this wacky, crazy film that has a Evil Dead kind of motif to it. And I really, really liked it. I did watch Slumber Party Massacre and Where Evil Lurks. I'm not a big fan of Where Evil Lurks, not necessarily because it's a bad film, just because it's so dark. And I just wanted fun films. But, you know, that's okay. You know, you can't like them all, right? But anyway, I was trying to think. Oh, barring anything happening, tomorrow night will be yet another watch along. This will be the final watch along for Argento August. And I know some of you might be saying, "Hey, Dana, it's not going to be August anymore tomorrow." I know, but it's still for me the last weekend of Argento August. Just permit me that, okay? So there's going to be a watch along for Phenomena at 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. So if you want to join me for that, or you want to come on here live on the stream with me, please let me know and I'll be glad to get you that link. What were the movies, Phil? Let's see. Slumber Party Massacre was first, then When Evil, or Where Evil Lurks, or When Evil Lurks, or whatever. And Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder from Hell. The last movie was Galaxy of Terror. Chewing the Corn, Steve said. It seems like I'm missing one. I'll have to get back to you on what the other one was, Phil, because it's escaping me right now. If anybody else in here knows, please, shout it out there in the chat. And for the month of September, we're kind of going to return to the regularly scheduled program. There's going to be more Everybody Wants England. There is going to be, you're welcome, Phil. There's going to be more Everybody Wants England, more Land is Confidential. I will be doing a countdown to Horror Hound weekend. Tomorrow, I've still got to put up the pre-recorded Terror Time tea from Friday. Sorry about that, folks. I got wrapped up into the Joe Bob Briggs Night Marathon and didn't quite get that all up there and stuff. Um, let's see. What else? Oh, there's going to be some Kubrick programming. I'm going to be having a Kubrick uh, show that'll happen every week. I think it's going to be called Kubrick Among Us. I was going to call it Kubrick Theory, but me and Steve both like Kubrick Among Us better. I try to take the director or the actor's last name and work it into a title, preferably a horror film. I think the horror film was Killer Among Us, so this is going to be Kubrick Among Us. So stay tuned for all of that coming up. In October, it will be Fulci Fall. So there's going to be a lot of Lucio Fulci programming, a lot of Lucio Fulci watch-alongs coming up in October. Also, I have obtained media passes for Scarefest, so stay tuned in October as well. For the later part of October, me and Steve will be making the trek to Lexington, Kentucky. We will be doing a highway to hell and showing you all the lovely things that you can see at Scarefest weekend. I will also be doing in a couple of weeks. I will be doing a Highway to Hell for Horror Hound Weekend in Cincinnati. And got my photo op already purchased for Robert England. They have added another session in case you were planning to go and want to get a photo op with Robert England on Saturday. They have added a second session. Yeah, it's Lucio Fulci's whole life was very, very sad. He made some fantastic movies, but his life, yeah, there were a lot of tragedies in his life. A while back, a long time ago, sadly, Giovanni Lombardo Radice, uh, who worked with Fulci quite extensively, passed away. But I did an interview with him through email uh, back when I was doing my blood type fanzine, and he and I talked about Fulci, and he talked about all the tragedies that had befell Fulci in his life. Yeah, very, very sad um, end for Fulci. He was in very poor health. He had suffered with diabetes for years, and unfortunately, complications from diabetes is what eventually took him away. Hey, Blissful. So I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. If y'all don't mind it just being me tonight. We are watching the original version of Tenebrae, by the way, not the Unsane version, okay? The Unsane version is cut, and I wanted the original with all the gore in its gory glory. Apologies, I'm eating soup. I'm trying to finish up my supper or dinner. And there's more thunder, guys and gals. But let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and do the countdown. If anybody does come in here later that wants to come in live on the stream with me, well, I'll give everybody that's watching along a couple of minutes to get queued up. I'm queued up at the beginning of the film where it says Peter Neal Tenebrae. You can see part of the book and the fireplace in the background. On my Blu-ray, I'm about 9 seconds in. So I will give everybody a couple of minutes in case you're going to be watching along tonight to get all queued up to where I am. I don't know if my husband will be in here tonight or not to chat with us. He was wiped out because of the night marathon last night. He worked and then he came home and he said he shouldn't have sat up that late. And like I said earlier, hopefully we won't have any snafus with the weather. But if we do, if I lose power or anything and I go away, I will. I don't want to reschedule, but so we can finish it up, we will reschedule it for a weekend in the future. I just always have to say that because when the weather's this hot and you've got thunderstorms, you just don't ever know what it's going to do exactly. But I hope I'm going to have some of y'all that are watching along tonight. I know Phil won't be able to because he's going to not be able to stay, so he's going to be watching Spin Googly tonight. But I do thank him again for coming in for a little bit at the beginning of this. Always appreciate seeing Phil in here. And for those of you that didn't get to see the new candle design for Cannibal Jungle, here it is in all its glory. And that is eucalyptus scented with green wax. I'm going to wait a few more seconds to 7:19, and then we're going to go ahead and get this party started tonight. Don't you just love this weather? I mean, we need rain, but, you know. You love it, Blissful? Well, thank you very much. These are soon going to make their appearance on the Deadites on Deck shop. All right. So we're going to do the countdown, and we're going to go ahead and get this movie started. And keep in mind, again, it is the Tenebrae original version, not the Unsane version, which is cut, sadly. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Press play. Hey, Hemi. So we're seeing the what appears to be the killer with the black gloves reading pages from Tenebrae by a writer, Peter Neal, who we're going to see here shortly. I'm glad to see you back in here, Hemi, by the way. So how many people have seen Tenebrae before? Show of hands there in the chat. If you haven't and you're watching it tonight, you're in for a wild ride with this one. Sorry for me sniffing and stuff like that. I've been having trouble with my sinuses lately. Blissful, you say it's your favorite? Yeah, it's up there for me. It's second for me after Deep Red. Deep Red's my first favorite Argento film, and then Tenebrae is my second. Hemi, do you need a beer because of the content of the watch along? And for those of you that were here early, I apologize. I had some technical difficulties with StreamYard tonight. Okay. I was hoping that the content, Hemi, wouldn't be that strong. But sometimes people like to have a beer or other alcoholic drinks when they watch movies like this. I'm not a big beer drinker, so, I may get some whiskey later or some hard Mountain Dew in there. Okay, so we're getting introduced to the character Peter Neal here, which I forget who I was talking to about this. If I was talking to Maybe I was talking to Chris about it. I can't remember if I was talking to Chris or Steve or who I was talking about. But why is he riding? Why is Peter Neal riding his bike to the airport? I mean, was he just trying to get a little exercise, or I don't know? It just seems odd. And he had that, that track suit or whatever on, and now he's, having to change his clothes into suit and tie and all that. I don't think I'd be wanting to do that in an airport bathroom, but blissful Hemi saying no booze for bliss. So here's another thing that I would not do is just if I had to take a phone call, I wouldn't just drop my bag, especially if I just had a little bag like Peter Neal does. Blissful, you're promising to behave. So we're going to find out that Jane is Peter's girlfriend, but we're also going to see that Peter likes to play the field a little bit because Daria Nicoletti plays his assistant, and they talk about having a nightcap together and all that. And I was like, aha, Peter Neal, I know what kind of guy you are. And there's Jane. And y'all may think I'm explaining a little, hey, Danny, you don't need to explain. But sometimes Argento's films are a little bit, if you're not really paying real close attention, you might miss something. And then you'll be like later, oh, wait. So now this girl is what I'd call a professional shoplifter. I'm going to see how smooth she's trying to be about stealing this book. Ah, well, thank you, Blissful. Say, I love when you explain because I always find something new. There she went, slipped it in her purse. So, she just got caught. Tom, do you think this chick looks like, oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I heard about that story about Winona Ryder doing that. I don't know um, whether what she was saying to try to explain why she was doing this. I heard she was preparing for a role, but that could be sketchy. I still love Winona Ryder, but I don't really understand that whole story about her getting caught shoplifting. But something else, this girl is also a professional, dare I say it, whore. Because the way she gets out of getting in trouble and she gets to keep the book is the shop owner, she or shop manager, she goes in there and, basically offers to, you know, help him out in the sex department if he won't, charge her with any crimes or call the cops. So I always thought this scene here was creepy because you've got, I guess he's a homeless guy, but he just keeps chasing her. And just the thought of just walking past a construction site or whatever that is, and somebody just keeps grabbing you and trying to chase you, and he's still coming after her. Well, I mean, she kicked him, but he was going after her. And we have that real tense scene where she's trying to get the gate locked. And he's that kind of like that. Guys and gals, I'm going to take myself out of the stream. Y'all continue to watch. I've got to go take my bowl in here and grab something real quick. Be right back. All right. I am back, and I was about to miss this first kill here. And there is the late great Mr. John Saxon there playing Peter Neal's agent. And in case y'all wonder what I'm eating, I'm not going to eat this whole thing. This is a strawberry parfait cake, and it's absolutely delicious. So, Tildy is somebody that Peter Neal knows, but she's like unloading on him here and saying he's sexist and all that. And we saw the man with the mustache standing in the background, kind of smirking, and that is a character called Cristiano, and he's going to come more into play a little bit later. So now now they're back to being friendly. I like this conversation about the hat. I always thought it was funny. There's Cristiano in the background again. Well, thank you, Tom. You know, I like the fact that I actually do like the fact that my channel is not huge. Um, I would like it to be successful, but I don't have to have it be just completely huge. But what makes me really more happy than anything else is that people are enjoying it. And if they're enjoying the content, that makes me happy. Yeah, Cristiano Berti. And there is Daria Nicoletti. She was married at one time to Dario Argento. So he says he's gotten Anne, that's Daria Nicoletti's character, a gift. And it's been smashed to bits. And everything's been messed up in Peter's luggage. And they come in to find that two, I think the other, there's one policeman, but I thought there was a policewoman here. Yeah, there she is. Or inspectors. And they're being told a girl was killed 5 hours ago. That's interesting, Tom. You said Dario is becoming the new Roger Corman. He will reach 100 years of age. And I hope that he does. I really hope that he does. And even beyond that, because, Dario is older, but he does seem to have his mental faculties and all of that. So they're suspicious of Peter Neal here because the girl was killed, and then pages from his newest book, Tenebrae, were stuffed into her mouth. So they are suspicious that maybe Peter had something to do with the killing. And, something that just occurred to me, this kind of stuff ties into, some people saying that books, certain violent books, violent movies, violent video games cause some people to act out in criminal ways. Um, I never, you know, subscribe to that theory. Um, but I think this is, especially for the time that this came out, it was timely. Um, so now we see that Peter has gotten a strange note. I must say, I never cared for that theory either, Blissful. So now Peter's getting a strange phone call that they expect may be the killer. It's evidently somebody can see them. Of course, when the inspector gets down to the road, the individual's already left the phone booth. So we're seeing again what appears to be the killer, who is obviously they're taking some kind of medication. They're groaning. They're in mental anguish. And then we go to a flashback sequence. And I don't want to give too much away here. Um, but a side note on this woman here, I was told that she used to be a man. And I'm going to explain one of my theories when we get to the end of this, or I'm going to try to remember to do it. Um, I think Chris and I um, had different thoughts on this. which is okay. I think it's great when people have different ideas about things. So then she's getting smacked. Was what you say, me too, more sides to look at and learn. Yeah, exactly. And there could be a bunch of different theories about this film, and maybe none of them are what Argento intended, but it's fun to make your own interpretations of things. This is pretty vicious here. Now, coming up is what Chris referred to, as a nipple slip. Not right here, but coming up soon. Oh yeah, the 1408 rabbit hole whistle. That's a good one. Okay, so I think it's right about here. So, did you see the nipple slip, gang? Because uh, Chris and I both were talking about this. As many times as both of us had seen the movie, we never noticed that little bit of a nipple slip there. That and there was the big shot where like it completely slid down on that one side. And what Chris was wondering is, did Argento notice that, and did he say, "Just screw it, I'm going to leave it in"? So here's where you get the idea that Peter Neal plays the field, because he's wanting her to have a drink and all that stuff. That's right. Liz Lee was like, "You're welcome." Okay, so you can see that Tildy has a lesbian relationship with this other woman. But the other woman must be bisexual because either that or she's just trying to aggravate Tildy by bringing a man to their home. So coming up is one of my favorite kills and favorite images from the entire movie. I mean, I love this movie, but this is iconic in my opinion. So this sort of reminds me of the shot, one of the shots near the beginning of Suspiria, where the building is being filmed from the outside. Never noticed that either. There were a bunch of beer cans and stuff, and maybe some soda cans on top of that one shelf. I just absolutely love these shots outside the house. It's just absolutely fantastic. So we see the killer cutting the blinds. So she hears a voice saying, "Pervert, filthy, slimy pervert." And she's like, where is that coming from? And her girlfriend is playing the music so loud. Okay, so here's the shot I was, speaking of here. Because the killer, when that gets sliced open and you see her face through the shirt, that just is awesome. And then you're going to get a second kill on top of that one, which the one that just happened was my favorite of these two. But the second kill, even adds to things even more. This imagery is just fantastic. The knife hitting the light bulb. Exactly, Tom. You say these movies are like time capsules, 1970 to 80, captured on film. Yes, perfectly. Yeah. So here's the other shot of her upper half of her body falling through glass, and then you go from that to the camera clicking, and then you see the first girl that had died, Tildy. And you can see the picture of the other girl that was killed near the beginning of the film. Let me see some of the other pictures. A bunch of negatives. At least they keep their, their tools clean, right? Can be walking around with dirty knives, right? So he's given his daughter 5,000 lira, which sounds like a lot, but I would have to figure out how much that actually was in American money. So I hate to keep saying this about the character of Peter, but like you can see him eyeballing even this young girl. This guy's a horn dog, I'm telling you. And Anthony Francisca, who plays Peter Neal, I don't think him and Argento got along very well on this film. And then Anne takes it all in stride, to which Peter replies, jailbait, my dear, jailbait. Um, but you cannot tell me that if that girl came on to Peter that he wouldn't have said, hot dog, let's, have some fun. Exactly, Tom. Yes. Directing a movie is dealing with a lot of big egos. And I have heard it said about Argento that he was not fond of actors or actresses. And perhaps that's why maybe he had seen a lot of them that just were not easy to work with. So this appears to be the killer again, going to uh, possibly leave another note for Peter. Too late, Peter. They always have these weird guys that work, in the uh, morgues and stuff like that. I've found in Argento movies. But maybe to work in a place like that, you got to have a bizarre sense of humor. I don't know. Tom, you said Kubrick had a heart attack because of the stress on his last movie. Um, there's no doubt a lot of stress in these for these directors of these movies. So there's Cristiano again, and he's going to be interviewing Peter. Tom, I can't remember if you were in here when I was talking about, since you brought up Kubrick, I'm going to be having a Kubrick series of streams coming up in September um, called Kubrick Among Us. So you might be interested in that. Yeah, Tom, I've kind of wondered about that too when they say that people die in their sleep. They actually said that about my papa, my dad's dad. That he had a heart attack. They said his heart basically exploded. And he just never woke up. But it is kind of confusing. Yeah, it is bizarre. John Saxon and his hat in this movie. That's one thing Argento would do. He would, and some people liked that, and some people didn't. The fact that he would throw humor in a lot of his earlier films, especially. A lot of people didn't like the extra humor and stuff that was added into some versions of Deep Red, and I always did. I thought that lightheartedness helped round out the movie, and the comedic stuff with John Saxon and his hat in Tenebrae, I think also adds a layer and makes this movie more well rounded. Um, if it were to just be one dark scene after dark scene after dark scene, I don't think it would have worked as well. I'd love to know what y'all think that are watching along with me here. Yeah, I always love John Saxon, Tom. Excuse me. So now Peter's doing like a lot of authors have done over the years when people start to blame their books on bad things that have happened, crimes and stuff like that. I've even heard Stephen King, for instance, say, he was sorry that he wrote a um, short story or novelette or whatever you want to call it called Rage years ago under the Richard Bachman name. Um, and I just think that's sad because that goes back to my that theory that I was talking about that I don't subscribe to, and that Blissful said that she um, didn't like that, didn't care for that theory either. Um, that violent books and violent movies and violent video games or whatever cause people to commit crimes or make them more susceptible to crimes. In fact, in the case of Stephen King and Rage, Stephen King actually withdrew that story from publication. It will never be printed in a newer form anymore. And I'm so glad that I had that story as part of the Bachman books um, in my collection, because if you don't already have it, or you don't find it at a yard sale or used bookstore or whatever, um, you're not going to see any new copies of it. Tommy said John Saxon played the kid in Out of the Past 1947 with Kirk Douglas. I've never seen that one. I should try to look that one up. So, guys and gals, I hate to go away again, but I'm going to run to the restroom real quick, but I will be right back. Y'all continue to watch. Okay, I'm back. Tom, you say you think it's on YouTube. You watched it 2 years ago. Yeah, it is. It is weird seeing a lot of these actors when they're real young and as kids. I love dogs. I do, but I came back on this thing. But this is always a very painful scene to watch. So, guys and gals, we got. I'm sorry, I keep coughing now. We got less than an hour left to go on Tenebrae. Now, usually, if I have somebody else on here with me, I will stay on here longer and we'll talk about the movie afterwards. Now, if you guys and gals in the chat want to discuss a little bit after the movie's over, I would be glad to stay on here a little bit longer. Otherwise, I'll probably get off of here fairly quickly after the movie's over. Um, but I want to, say that I appreciate those of you that did come in here, those of you that are watching, those of you that are active in the chat too. But it really looks, as I'm watching this again, and of course, I'm sure these are well trained dogs, that they're not going to hurt, they wouldn't have hurt this girl. But that dog literally does look like it's jumping and playing. It does not look like it's making any connection with her as far as biting her. Thank you, Blissful. Blissful says, please hit the thumbs up. Thank you. You say, Tom, you say Tony Curtis, 1948, played a teenage gang leader. See, that seems wild to me. Because, have you ever noticed about some actors that they've always seemed old? Or they've always seemed, they never seemed like they were young, right? So she is in the killer's house now, and she's seeing all the pictures of the victims. If y'all hear that, that's Steve in there. You can see all the letters that they were using to create the letters to, uh, or the notes or whatever, to Peter Neal. Yeah, you're right, Tom. Many were lucky to reach that famous stage. I'll have to tell him, Blissful. I think he already went back in the bedroom. Tommy said Louis Jordan was 75 when he played a 50-year-old. I'm not an actress, but I've been told I look young for my age, which I just turned 48 this year. Yep, exactly. See, he's a ninja. The only thing he doesn't do is dress all in black. And I'm going to get my hair dyed black here in another week or so. So hopefully I'll look even younger. No, you're right, Tom. Ernest Borgnine did not change much over the years. Uh oh. Something tells me this girl's about to be dispatched. Well, now she knows she's in trouble. He said, "My lunatics rabbits, that's enough for me." Well, this girl's having all kinds of bad luck here. I wasn't sure how old Tom Skerritt was, but he's 91. Wow. Aw, Hemi, you don't want to put Luna in doggy jail. So Peter is thinking back here to something Cristiano said about perversion. And the killer keeps calling uh, these people that they're killing perverts and spies and all of that. Oh no, Blissful. Surely not. This is the kid that wants the cuddles, right, Blissful? So Peter is starting to become suspicious of Cristiano now. So there's going to be a scene coming up where Peter and his, um, I guess this is another assistant, this guy here, Giano or Gianni. Oh my gosh, Blizzle, did I ever tell you about, speaking of cats biting you? Did I ever tell you about my cousin's cat? I think Sunny was the cat's name. When that cat was a kitten, it used to bite my toes every time I would spend the night with Heather in the summer when she had that kitten. It would, it just felt like needles going through my toes. So they're going to Cristiano's house to check up on, what he may or may not be doing. That's what you say. He also bites my ankles. Now I know how much it hurts, and I've decided never to do that again. So you can see that the killer is aggressively throwing the pictures into the fire. There's Cristiano. So somebody just took Cristiano out there. So I think it's safe to say at this point that this film has two killers because Cristiano was one killer, but the other killer is just taking Cristiano out. And somebody has also hit Peter in the head. So we got a little bit of a confusing thing there that it appeared that someone else was saying that they killed all the women and then they killed Cristiano. But something is going to come to light, and I've said this more than once about Argento films, something that we think that we've seen or something we think that we've heard or something that one of the characters has thought that they've seen or heard in an Argento film, a lot of times it will turn out to be something completely different. So he's seeing the scene over and over in his mind. So you, you can tell clearly tell if you haven't already been able to tell that Anne has a thing for Peter and Peter has a thing for Anne. So we're seeing another flashback sequence here. Someone is very brutally stabbing that woman. So Peter says he's, thinking of going to Paris for a couple of weeks and leaving Rome. And of course, his agent doesn't want him to. And he's saying, Peter's saying, like, my life's in danger. So we're probably about to the last quarter of the film. Um, this movie moves along pretty quickly, and I think it's because Argento is great at pacing. I feel like as well because there's not really, for me anyway, there's not really any slow parts to Tenebrae or the majority of Argento's films. So there's a lot of stuff going on here in this movie. So we're seeing that Jane is having a fling with John Saxon's character. And Jane's scared that Peter knows about them. And he's saying, no, no, he doesn't know. So Gianni's saying, I'm not going to go back to that house. And Peter says, just stay in the car, Gianni. You don't have to go in there. So the inspector is asking Peter, you didn't get another envelope yet, right? Um, which it appears strange that before a lot or after a lot of the killings that Peter would get a note, but I don't think he did for Maria, the girl in the pink, that got axed, and then Cristiano got axed as well, and he did not get a note. So, and it seems that Cristiano was, obsessed with Peter Neal. And I mentioned Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the Sherlock Holmes books. And he says, when you have eliminated the impossible, however improbable is the truth. And he says, the impossible is that the chain of killings doesn't make sense. In the Hound of Baskervilles, the impossible is a giant ghost mastiff. The improbable in this case, again like the book, is almost certainly weird, unbelievable, but possible. And he said that's what we have to find. Truth is always possible. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes is classic storytelling. So Jane has received a gift. Some very bizarre artwork there. Why would you have such a thing in your house? There's those damn red shoes again. They look eerily like the shoes that the woman was wearing in the flashback sequences. So we've got John Saxon again, who appears that he's waiting for somebody. I would assume he's waiting for Jane. Somebody else is making their way through the audience, through the crowd of people. We see these white pills again. And we know that Cristiano is already dead. So who is this person? This was obviously the person that was moaning and groaning and taking medicine earlier in the film. We were probably led to believe that that was Cristiano, but now that Cristiano is dead, we know that can't be him. I don't know why John Saxon's character finds that people fighting and stuff amusing. Or at least the two men shouting at each other in Italian he found amusing. So we see the woman who is crying, who was getting yelled at by the man a little bit earlier, walking towards John Saxon. And a shadow falls over him. He looks, he smiles, and then the smile turns into shock, and then he's stabbed. So we're led to believe that the person that just stabbed him is someone that John Saxon knows. So who was that? And then we see a woman walk up, and we're led to believe that that's Jane because she's got the red shoes on. And it appears that Peter is going to Paris for a little bit. So we're down to about the final 20 minutes of the film, folks. And this is where things are going to kick into high gear. It appears that Peter has left for Paris. We saw the plane leaving. And Gianni is back at Cristiano's house because something's still bothering him about that. We see the black glove again. So we know that there's a second killer around. So he's seeing this again, hearing the voice saying, "Yes, I killed them. It was me." And he's remembering that Cristiano said that. I killed them all, killed them all. He's realizing that Cristiano was the murderer. But who killed him? That's the next question. And who is donning the black gloves here? And we saw the black glove killer take the keys, and now Gianni is being strangled. So this conversation that Anne's having with Jane kind of casts some suspicion on Jane at this point, that she says, sometimes I feel like I'm two people, and it makes me do things I don't want to do and things like that. So you're kind of wondering, well, is she the other killer? But then we realize that she's kind of setting Jane up here, um, is what she's doing. Because when she hung up the phone, she's like, aha, I got her. Anne's going to come over here. So there's a whole lot of twists and turns, here towards the last part of the film. So we're getting ready to come up on another just spectacular scene. A paint the room red, and I am not kidding about this at all. Um, and for those of you that have not seen Tenebrae before, man, you're in for one wild ride here towards the end. We see that Jane is clearly waiting for Jane to come through there so that she can shoot her. And it's not quite going to turn out that way. And literally, this is a paint the room red with your own blood scene. And then there's the axe again. And when I first saw this, I was like, holy cow. So then we're getting this flashback again of the woman being stabbed. And we see that the killer at that point took the shoes. And evidently, this was the same person that sent the shoes to Jane. So now Jane is arriving, or I mean, Anne is arriving at Jane's. There's that. There's a reason why Argento keeps showing that very bizarre sculpture there, very sharp looking sculpture. Okay, so it looks like Jane just got dispatched by the killer. And I remember I told you this movie towards the end has a whole heck of a lot of twists and turns. So here's the killer. We're going to slowly pan up. Oh my gosh, it's Peter. Peter was the other killer. And he thinks, oh my God, I've killed Anne. And then the inspector shows up. And there's Anne. And who Peter really has killed is the other inspector. Oh, that's okay, Blissful. There's still more of the movie to come. You didn't miss the grand finale. So we can see that Peter is clearly distressed. Peter is not the person we thought he was. He is not stable at all. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. And Bulmer's maid told Inspector Altieri he'd had an affair with your fiance. Altieri was too headstrong and came over here alone to check. She didn't know that you, Neil, are mad, completely mad. He says, I didn't kill the other women. I didn't kill the other women. And the inspector says, I know that would have been impossible. He says, when I realized that Christiana was the killer, it didn't take me too long to realize that the rest, Mr. Germani, was like writing a book. A book, Perfect Revenge. The razor killer was dead, but you wanted him to live on long enough to be blamed for the murder of your fiance and her lover. The two people you hated most. So if this hasn't been shocking enough, there's more, folks. There's more. I thought this was shocking too when I saw it for the first time. It appears that Peter has slit his own throat. They think it's over, and Anne's still very distraught over Peter. She says it's not possible. And the inspector said, I couldn't believe it either. He said, not until I got a telex for Interpol this evening. When Peter Neal was a teenager in Rhode Island, a girl he knew was killed brutally. Someone accused him, but there wasn't any real evidence, and it was never brought to trial. He says, but if it was Peter Neal, then he committed an act which haunted his life and twisted his mind forever. It was in his last book. Now he realized that any obstacle or humiliation staying in his way could be swept aside by a simple act of annihilation. And these are all things from the book Tenebrae. Now, I want to talk about what my theory always was with the flashback scenes of the man running towards the woman and then the one guy slapping her and her mouth being bloody and then the others beating up the one, and we assume that to be Peter Neal. Now, I'll give it just a second here. Peter's gone, so evidently he wasn't dead. I'll continue with my theory here in just a sec, but I don't want y'all to miss this. And he's seeing that this is not a real blade. It's got fake blood in it. That's a great shot, too. And so the other inspector just got taken out. And Anne's becoming kind of suspicious. Well, there's that crazy sculpture again. So I'm guessing at this time, Peter is so insane now that he knows that he's going to have to take Anne out too. But that crazy sculpture. And Anne screaming. So we have officially reached the end of Tenebrae, but I wanted to finish up my theory. So that my theory of the flashback, and this is not the way Chris saw it. Chris saw it as just a straight ahead. The girl was a whore in the flashback, and she was messing around with other men, and Peter Neal was the one that slapped her, and Peter Neal was the one that ended up stabbing her later. My theory is that all of those men kind of look the same. And my theory is that these were all parts of Peter Neal's fractured mind, even at that young age. And that when it shows them beating him up, that it was like an inner turmoil going on inside of his own delusional mind, and that that carried over further into his adult life. Now, like I said, Chris thinks that that's just a straight ahead scene. The woman was a whore. Those other men were not part of Peter Neal's fractured mental state or fractured mind. I thought of it like schizophrenia or a psychosis, multiple personality disorder, a combination thereof, some kind of dissociative personality disorder. But again, maybe I'm reading way too much into some of the scenes, but that's the way I always saw it. But y'all can take that as you want to take it. I'm sure some people, probably the majority of people, see it the way Chris does. There may be a certain percentage of you that see it how I see it, or you may have a totally different interpretation of that. So I hope you have enjoyed this watch along for Tenebrae. I hope many of you, if not all of you, will be able to tune in for Phenomenon, which will be the watch along for tomorrow night to finish up Argento August. That will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. I will also be trying to do a countdown to Horror Hound Weekend. I've got this week's countdown to Horror Hound Weekend and one more, and then it will officially be time for Horror Hound Weekend. So stay tuned for all of that coming up. I've got to get a Terror Time tea put up that was pre-recorded for the Dario Argento film Giallo. And so looks like we've got one person in here that might be blissful. So I'm going to call it a night, folks. But I'm off like a dirty shirt. But I want to say, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to remind everybody to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a good one, folks. And I'll see everybody next time.